we go. So look, thank you so much for doing this, Bill. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure.
Cool. Well, we'll see. It may not be. And of course, as we've briefly just touched on before we started recording, it's it's midday over here. It's very early. It's very early for you. So I really do appreciate it. And you look like you are in a classroom of some sort.
I am. Yeah. So I'm an elementary music teacher, and
Right.
the building I'm in two different buildings during the day, but right now I'm in the upper elementary. So I have fourth, fifth, and sixth grade over here. And then in the afternoons, I go next door and I have kindergarten through third grade.
Right.
So
Okay.
all the elementary kids. So yeah, that's what I do.
Well, being in the UK, it's like none of that makes any sense to me at all. Because obviously we have like all sorts of different years, different all called different stuff.
Okay.
But the beautiful thing is that the background at the moment it speaks the international language of school for small people.
Yeah.
It's like I can absolutely, I can see it. It takes me back all those years.
Sure.
So how did you start doing all of these mixes, which by the way are fantastic? As you know, they're beloved by metal fans. I mean, metal fans without a sense of humor, maybe not so much, but the metal elitists, you will not be thanking you for any of this.
Right. No, that's exactly right. So, I mean, just some background with me. I started playing guitar at about 14 years old, played all the time, took lessons, all that stuff. Went to college for music. Didn't really have a lot of direction as far as what I wanted to do once I was done with college. I mean, I was a music technology major. So, and I took guitar lessons while I was in school. And again, once I graduated, didn't really know what I was going to do, but I ended up getting into teaching guitar lessons just privately. And, and I liked that part of it, but I was kind of following a path of, you teach privately during the day and then you gig at night, you play, you do this. Yeah. But I never liked that part of it. That was just the thing. Like, I love the teaching. I love that part of it. But as far as gigging and doing anything like that, it never appealed to me, doing stuff where you're in a band or, even like I've done acoustic duos, just strumming, singing, that kind of stuff. And I just wasn't into it. And
do you mind me asking sort of what element of it? Were you nervous? Did you just not get a kick out of it? What
both of those things. Yeah. I mean, it was nerves. Right. It was like, just the idea of being in the moment, being there, you have to do this, and just feeling like it's not as good as it should be. I mean, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I guess.
Yeah, live is not for you then, yeah.
Right, and it's not because you do it, and you can't do it over again. It's you can't. And I think that's a big part of it too. And I never felt comfortable. And it's also having to coordinate with other people too. Whereas with Mashup, I don't have to do that. I just do it in my house anytime I want to, and it's easy and I can just do that. But so I mean, like that part of it never appealed to me. So I wanted to do something with music, and all the while I went back to college to get my certification to teach in a school, which is what I do now. And around in that time, somewhere maybe 5 years ago, I started getting into the mashup thing, just listening to mashups that other people have done, and with music that I like, just with hard rock, with metal and that kind of thing. And I'd never heard that before. And I thought, well, I could probably do this because I know how to, with the music technology background, I know what I would need to make it work. And I had GarageBand on my computer, and I was able to figure out how to download stems, the individual tracks, those kinds of things, and mix it together. Yeah. And then use iMovie to put a video with it. And like the first one I did, it turned out pretty well. I was like, well, this is cool. I posted it on Facebook and a lot of people liked it there. Then from there, I just started a YouTube channel. I thought, well, I could probably get a lot more views eventually at some point, if I have a YouTube channel and get a lot of followers on there. And the cool thing with YouTube, I mean, for the most part, is that it's generally not a problem to put other people's music on there on my own channel, you know, because I mean, that's what I do. It's all copyrighted material. It's other people's music. And as long as I agree to run ads on my videos, it's normally not a problem. It can stay there. And I mean, YouTube won't give me anything for it. I don't get compensated from them, but usually it can stay there. Sometimes they're blocked. Sometimes they're taken down for various reasons, but YouTube seems to be the best platform.
They get taken down by record companies who still haven't figured out that this is an opportunity, not the enemy.
That's exactly right. Exactly it. Yeah. And what that's doing, it is an opportunity because it's allowing people, it's exposing them to music that they might not know, because I mean, that's what I do. My mixes that I do are two completely different genres. So people who like pop music might not know this heavy metal song, but they might be into it. And, you know, so they are exposed to it. And then all of a sudden, there's a new Slayer fan out there, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly the point. I mean, as personally, you know, as a singer in a band, I would rather play a festival where there's a whole bunch of bands from different genres playing, and I get to reach people who would no way come and see Acid Rain, rather than go on tour with 3 other thrash bands and play to the same 600 people who already know we exist and either like us or don't.
That's exactly it. Yep, I agree 100%. And you know, you're getting people that, like you said, wouldn't normally see you, and you know, expanding your fan base just.
And that's the only way forward. You've got to expand. You've got to, you know, especially in the particular genre that I live in, which is thrash metal. People are all about, you know, it's like thrash bands, thrash tours, keep it, and it's like my band's been around since the 80s, but it doesn't mean that, yes, we're happy with the fan base. That's it. That'll do. You've got to keep expanding and you've got to keep moving forward, because, you know, it's about evolution. And if you don't evolve, you die, as I'm sure you teach regularly to even children understand this shit, but record companies don't.
That is so true. Absolutely true. And it's frustrating. It is. And it's not just, it's anybody who does anything using somebody else's recording, you know, and you might be using it just for educational purposes, but still record companies sometimes are just like, no, you're not going to do that. This recording is only going to exist here, and that's it. You know, in no way, shape, or form is it going to exist anywhere else on somebody else's channel or this or that. And yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you get, I mean, presumably you also get strikes from YouTube. So, you know, all of a sudden everything is like put over question, and YouTube / Google are famous for treating everybody the same, which is they treat everybody equally poorly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And the way that I feel that they look at me, I mean, if they even think about it, it's just the same as me just taking a recording in its original form, not altering it at all, and putting it on my channel and calling it mine. But that's not what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Not because they won't. I mean, when you reach 100,000 subscribers, you're supposed to get a little plaque or whatever that they send you. You know, which would be nice, but I didn't get one because it's not 100% original content. That's the only way that they would send something like that out to a channel.
I mean,
I understand they don't give money. That's one thing. There's a great semantic argument to be had there, though, isn't there? That it's like, well, if you take one thing and you take another thing and you create something completely original, then it is original content. And it's like, isn't everything made up of stuff that already exists anyway? It's like, no music is original because you've used a guitar, and you know. There you go. I mean, any form of music that exists, it has been influenced by stuff in the past, you know, that's already been done. I mean, you can't really do anything 100% new that isn't already in existence in some way, shape, or form in a recording somewhere from years ago. You know, everyone borrows from everybody else, but it's the fact that it's the exact recording that is the issue. But I don't really think that it should be that way.
No, I completely agree. And but kind of went off on a tangent there. You were saying it's like, you know, and I totally get live performance, like not being for you, especially being a teacher and being a perfectionist. Then as opposed to the kick that I get out of performing live, you kind of get exactly the opposite, which is like, oh, you know, that's wrong, and you hit a bum note and you're going to be pissed off for the rest of that song.
Forever. I still remember solos that I took, you know, that were like, that's, I still think about it.
Dude, let it go. Let it go.
No, right?
Yeah. Oh man.
That's how I am though. That's why, I mean, the live, it's just not for me. I can't, not cut out for it.
No, but also I get the working with other people. I mean, I do the podcast on my own, and you know, I quit the band back in the 90s, and you know, I did stand-up comedy for 20 years, and I still do stand-up, which is great because I'm like the master of my own destiny. You know, it's always amusing when you get, you know, when I've been doing the band for a bit, and then I get comedy shows coming up, and it's like when you're offered a show for the band, it's like, okay, great, so you've got to speak to everybody in the band. Are they available for the dates? What crew are available? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay. Whereas when it's comedy, its agent rings up and says, this gig, this date, this money. And I go, yeah, or no.
Simple.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Really simple. Yeah. Well, I've got a friend who's a policeman, and a friend of mine was saying, "Oh, I've got the perfect crime. I know how to commit the perfect crime." And he goes, "Oh, go on then." He said, "Well, me and a friend," and he went, there you see, you just got caught." He said, "You just doubled the chances of things going wrong."
That's so true.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to be able to do something just completely on your own. No input from anybody, nothing, no collaboration. It's just however you want to do it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get that. And interestingly, what you do, and maybe I'm crazy here, but you know, mashups have existed for a while. Heard quite a few over the years. Probably Eminem and Survivor was like the first time where I heard something and went like, right, yeah, now that is really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But you do mashup videos as well, which I think just like adds a whole other level. Slayer, Black Magic. I mean, I was in tears of laughter watching that.
That's great. I love that.
There's some of it though. Surely when you're putting these videos together, sometimes you must be like, oh my God, I can't believe how well this fits without me doing anything to it.
Exactly. And I'm doing it, and I'm sitting there, you know, just in my living room. I had all the audio done with that one. I'm starting to put the video together, and I'm cracking up. I'm looking at how this looks, and just how I was able to find these little elements, real subtle kind of things, because I was going through the Slayer video. It was a live performance. It was like an hour long.
Yeah.
So I mean, Black Magic was a part of that performance. There were all these other songs that they were doing too. So I was able to go, if I wanted to just find some kind of like movement or some kind of a look on Tom Mariah's face, I could find it somewhere in that video. But like the couple of things, like, I mean, just from the beginning, I mean, you have Prince's music and you have Tom Mariah just like kind of walking out on the stage, and he just like looks and he smiles.
Yes. Yes.
And then Carrie King comes out as the guitar enters,
yeah.
And, you know, and it's those little things. And then just a few seconds later, it cuts to Prince, and they're doing like the kind of back and forth dance like this. And then for some reason, I just kind of stumbled upon Tom Mariah doing that exact movement, like just for a second, in a different part of the video. And so to put that right after it to make it look like he's dancing to Prince, I'm like, this is gold. I was able to find these little things and just kind of put them in here. But yeah, and I love doing the video too. That's definitely a big part of it. And musically, like I've had training with that, going to school for it and everything. But as far as the video, that's just 100% just figuring it out as I go. You know, I've only ever used iMovie, which is pretty simple.
Yeah.
I thought about getting other stuff, but I just never have. I just figured everything I need to do movie wise, I could do with iMovie, and it works. And I don't really feel the need to go any more complicated than that. And but I love doing the video, because that, especially when you have something that's humorous to begin with. You know, I mean, it's Slayer with pop tunes. I've done so many of those, but they're still effective. And But when you can find those little video elements, or even just like a real quick shot of them headbanging to to the Prince tune, it works, and it's just funny. So
Yeah,
I definitely like that part of it too.
But also it's different. And it's different to music as well, because obviously, in music, how, as you said, you've got formal training and all that as well. But with the video and the visuals, it becomes you're crossing over into my territory, comedy now, which is what you have to go with is what you think is funny, is what makes you laugh, and what you think is good. You can't, and it's that performing live thing again. You can't be thinking of it from the viewer's perspective. You just have to focus on what you think, what you're happy with, and know that that's going to translate to enough people who will think the same as you.
That's true. And I agree with that. And I find that too, that if I'm putting something together and I'm already just laughing, just cracking up hysterically, and then other people are going to find this funny too. Because I build that following based on stuff that I've already done, and people like that, and they see the value in it. They see the humor in the ones that I've done. So it just stands to reason that if I find something funny, then they're going to find it funny too. So just kind of go with your gut as far as that goes.
Well, that actually brings me to a comment actually, which is I clicked through, and there was a comment from I Will Battle, name check for YouTube user, and he just says, "Mr. McClintock, you never fail to impress." Oh. and I think, well, there you go. It's like knowing your audience, and your audience are coming to see and listen to what you do.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. And he's a mashup artist too. And I've heard some things that he's done before, and he's good. He's had a few combos that are really nice. And so, that's nice to hear from other mashup artists too, who do the same kind of thing that I do, and who appreciate it, and who can appreciate the work that I put into it and all that stuff. And yes, that's a really cool thing.
Is it kind of strange as well? Because I know from like starting this podcast 7-8 years ago, where I was just kind of you're learning in public basically, and then all of a sudden one day someone messages you for advice, and you're like, oh, am I that guy now?
Yeah.
it's freaky, right?
Yeah, it is. That's a weird thing. And sometimes, and this was a friend of mine, he reached out because he found a tune by the Cars and a tune by Warrant that he thought would go together really well. And I'm trying to think what they are. Down Boys by Warrant, and Bye Bye Love by the Cars. And he was right. The two songs, you wouldn't think so, but they're really close structurally, and the tempos are a little different, which is why I think that it wouldn't work as well, but same key, and the vocal lines, the phrases are the same length and all that stuff. And so he's like, well, you should try this. And then he went and he was just doing it like a Google search or a YouTube search, maybe, to see if it already existed, or if anybody had tried to put something together with those two. And he came across a video where it wasn't somebody who did a mashup, but they were just showing that the two songs were similar. So they would play like 15 seconds of one song and then 15 seconds of the other song back to back. And just in the comments, I think there was like 2 comments in that video, and one person commented, somebody call Bill McClintock so he could put this together, totally random, And my friend, he's like, points this out to me like, dude, what the, like, I found this randomly and somebody mentioned your name. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
You must get that. You must get. Presumably you get requests, some of which are from people who, and music fans, gotta love them. Metal fans, they're great, they're wonderful, but also some people who just listen to music don't necessarily understand how it works. So they will suggest 2 songs that you should mash together, and you just think, dude, like, do your ears work?
And right. And there's so much of that. And a lot of times, like you said, it's people who listen to music, but they have no idea how it works.
Yeah.
And they'll suggest things. A lot of it is just suggestions based on 2 songs where the title is similar. And you're like, this would be the best
thought of that.
ever. Like, I'm like, what are you, or the 2 band names, like Queen and Queens of the Stone Age or something like that. Like, yeah, do a mashup. Why?
Yes.
Like musically, it makes no sense. And I mean, I'm nice about it, like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool, I'll look into it, but dude, come on.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they have some letters that are the same in the name of the band. That doesn't mean that the songs will work together.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And yeah, I mean, I do get a lot of requests, and the only time I was ever able to honor someone's request was so it was just a random comment on one of my videos, like, hey, you should try this. And it was Rock the Casbah by The Clash and Super Freak by James Brown.
Right.
Rick James, sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, well, yeah, they're the same key, A minor, about the same tempo. And I kind of looked into it. I'm like, yeah, I think this would actually work. And I was able to find all the stems and everything. So I did it. this dude, and I like commented back to him, or like I put the video up that he requested. I had it done. I put it up, and he was like so thrilled, like, oh my God, you actually did it. That's so cool. But that's so rare that someone's going to suggest something where it's actually going to work musically, because it is not even just about key and tempo, but there's so much other stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, but the one thing that I think plays a major part in music, but doesn't matter in a mashup is vibe. Because you get you get the vibe of Black Magic by Slayer, just to go back to something we were talking about earlier. I mean, Slayer and Prince, they're never going to have a similar vibe, but it actually works the other way round, where it works because it doesn't work.
Right. That's exact, and a couple things I want to say about that. First is just the way that idea came to me. Black Magic is I think maybe one of 5 isolated vocal tracks by Slayer that I was able to find on YouTube. I had already done all the others. Black Magic was the only one I haven't done. And I don't know that song as well, but I'm like, it's still a great vocal. I want to do something with it. For years, I've been looking, and I kind of just carry that around with me, just in case anything ever comes to mind. Yeah. And where a few Fridays ago, I took my kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, and my wife. We all went to the movies, and we saw the movie Sing 2, just the animated thing. And at the very beginning, the cartoon character started playing that song, "Let's Go Crazy," and I'm just like listening to that, and all of a sudden, of all things, the Black Magic lyrics went into my head. I'm like, oh shit, this would probably work. Let me try this, And that's where and sometimes that's how it goes down, And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I just put that aside, and we went out to lunch after that, go home, and I started to put it together. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. This is the one. This is the tune.
Inspiration can strike at any moment, and that must have been a weird moment where this movie is starting, and you've got this like massive grin on your face. Your wife must have been thinking, you're enjoying this a bit too much. What's going on with you?
Right, exactly. And that's but that's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about vibe and everything like that, and how they have totally different vibes, but they work together. And I think, and people will ask me like, well, what do I think of other mashups that are out there, and or suggestions that people give? And a lot of times it's based on 2 songs that already sound really similar. They're in the same key, they're the same tempo, they have exactly the same vibe. So when you do that, I mean, it's cool because they're going to work together, but it's not going to create a new vibe, which I think is so important, because it's not going to sound like it's something new. It's going to sound just like both of those sounded to begin with. And it's no one's going to care, it's like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, they sound the same. But to take 2 completely different songs and put those together, because they're still, even though they have different vibes, the musical elements are still there. Rhythmically, the Slayer vocals that, da, 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 and that's the same rhythm that's happening in the Prince tune. And that's why those work. I mean, it's just rhythmic based. He's not singing, so there's no need to match the melody in the same key or anything. So it's just, as long as that rhythmic element is really strong, then you're good,
Yeah. And do you, I mean, obviously you're a metal fan, and that's the music that you use as your kind of like your imprint. That's your go-to. And I'm presuming that it's just bands you like, it's songs you're just purely going off your own kind of record collection, your own love of metal, you're not going to sort of go out there and go, to pluck a band out of the air, Cannibal Corpse, I wonder if I could do a good job with that, when you're not a Cannibal Corpse fan and you don't have any of the records.
Well,
or not.
It might surprise you. There's been several times where it's been the opposite, where it's songs that I don't know that well, but kind of stumble upon in different ways. One of those ways is through a website called Karaoke Version, and they have a whole database of karaoke covers of songs, and I've used some of those. And in fact, the Prince one was from that. I couldn't use Prince because I know immediately that one would be blocked because of how protective Prince and the record company is of his music. And I mean, it still could be taken down. I don't know. It's been up for a few days, so we'll see. But anyway, so I use the karaoke version for that. But anyway, that website has a really cool search feature where you can search by key or by a tempo range and by style and everything.
Right.
And then when you search, it'll show you everything that they have in their database, which I think is like 50,000 songs. They have a lot on there. But sometimes I'll just get ideas from that. And I came across a Slipknot vocal years ago, Sulfur, and I really didn't know that song. I'm not going to say I don't like. I mean, I didn't really know it, but I'm like, let's see what I can do with this vocal, because I'd already done a couple by them. And then I used that database, and it was coming up with all kinds of weird stuff. But one of the things that was there was the Spice Girls, Wannabe. And I'm sitting at my kid's karate class. This is another one, just like a weird place. And I'm just kind of like listening to both just on my phone, just like, let's try this, and I ended up doing it. It's got, I don't know, something close to 3 million hits by now after being on for a couple of years. But so that was, and that happens. Sometimes it's stuff that I really don't know. In fact, the Overkill one that I just did, that was another one with the Overkill and the Temptations. I knew the Temptations song, and that was another one. That vocal was on my list to do. And I was going through Apple Music just on the metal station, just one song after another, just kind of listening for a couple seconds just to find something. And the Overkill song, Hello from the Gutter, came on. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the right key. This is the right tempo. I think this can work. And then I did it. But I mean, this was months after they had asked me to do a mashup with one of their songs. Overkill did. And cool. I just kind of put it in the back of my mind, and I'm like, maybe we'll see, maybe 8 months later or so, and ended up finding that. I'm like, okay, let's do that. And then they were so happy with it and everything. So that was really cool. But it's interesting how they come together sometimes.
That was going to be kind of, that leads me into my next question, which was going to be, do you get, as well as requests from people, listeners on YouTube, do you get requests for bands? And also, have you had requests from bands to take stuff down? Have bands taken offense of,
well, as far as bands reaching out and requesting me to do stuff, not really. I mean, that was the Overkill one was probably, I think, the only one that I could think of anyway, where, right. I mean, they're the only one who ever reached out and said, can you do something? So, I mean, that happened that one time. No bands have ever reached out to me personally to like complain for something that I had done with their, I mean, it's all just through, and I don't even know if it's the bands, it's probably just the record companies. Yeah. They have to file a formal complaint with YouTube. And when they do that, then your videos automatically, there's just no questions asked, videos taken down, that's it, and you can't really do anything about it because you use somebody else's stuff and you don't really have the right to do that. I mean, you can, and usually it's not a problem, but sometimes it's just not. So, but no, so, I mean, that's it. You don't really hear from anybody. It's just all of a sudden you get an email from YouTube. We got this complaint and we had to take down your video.
Yeah. As they do. Do you, and kind of touched right at the beginning on the metal elitists, and presumably you've been on the wrong end of some of their vitriol about stuff you've done. Yeah.
You get. I mean, a lot of times they'll come on and just like, oh, how could you do this to a Metallica song, or this is stupid, or this and that. And more so at the beginning, I would get more comments like that when I didn't have as many followers. But now I think just my fan base and the people who follow me, they kind of know what I'm all about. And they're
Yeah.
just like, this is what it is. And this is why we follow you. But every once in a while, you get somebody who just, they don't know, they've never heard it. They just see like, comes up in their feed on YouTube, this video, like, what is this? And, they're not expecting it. And there's like, I mean, usually it's just comments. It's like, what the, like, what,
Yeah.
what
It's
is
all
this
right.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
do?
What the fuck have you done to this great song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore, but every once in a while, and you just like keep scrolling it. And there was a time where when I was first starting out, and I just go back and forth with somebody, like, what do you mean? Like, why is it such a big deal? Or but I learned not to do it because you can't. You're not going to convince them, and they're not going to like it, and that's what it is. So you just ignore it. That's all you can.
Well, also the thing is that whenever these comments are made, I mean, firstly, when you get a following and stuff, as you do now, the comments police themselves, because some humorless dick comes in and says something, and then everyone else is going to be like, what are you doing here? You don't get it, and they're going to shut them down without use. So I would imagine, like myself, sometimes you look at comments on YouTube and you see everybody policing it for you, and it's actually quite amusing because you just see everybody doing, it's great.
Right. And there have been times where I would find a comment like that, just something. If it's a comment that it's pretty elaborate and it goes on for a while about like, this is not, you shouldn't do this, blah, blah, blah. Then I'll take that and I'll pin it. So it'll go to the very top. It's the first comment that everyone will see as they're going through the comments. And that's when it really hits the fan, people go in. And and the funny thing is that's going to blow up that person's phone. They're going to get all these angry things from people because of what they said. And it's great. All I had to do was pin it, and that's it.
I've just realized what you're doing. That is the virtual equivalent of making somebody stand in front of the class. What is it that you think is so funny?
Wow, I never thought of it that way, but that's it. You hit the nail on the head. That's perfect.
It's the teacher. The teacher in you is come alive. That's brilliant.
Well, I never thought of that. But that's it. That's brilliant. That's exactly what it is.
It is. But also the thing is that again, there are similarities with comedy here where people don't get the joke, and the rule is that like all jokes are funny unless they're about you. And that's what everybody suffers with. So you can stand on stage and do all sorts of cover every single topic, and someone will sit there and laugh. And then you do a joke about cancer, and someone in their family is currently dealing with cancer, and all of a sudden you're not funny anymore. You're offensive. That was out of order. None of the other stuff, none of the other, just that. Yeah. And that's what you're dealing with when you because people have an emotional attachment to music, and this is what it's all about. It's about emotions.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And you get some people really fired up if they don't like it. But I mean, usually it's the opposite. You get them fired up because they love it and they think it's the coolest thing. And like, how did you do this and this and that and that, And I think that's a part of, I wanted to get to a point, not just with anything in life, where I want to be able to do something where people just sit there and like scratch your head and like, how the hell do you do this?
Yeah.
It's taken a long time. It's taken a lot of practice to get to where I think I can do that a lot of times. But it's a cool thing just to kind of sit back and be like, well, I've earned this. I've practiced it for years and years and put so many hours into it. So it's just a cool thing just to kind of do that and just to see people who are just amazed by it and they love it. So it's really rewarding to have that.
And I noticed that you're taking it to all levels. You've got merch available. You're on Patreon, as am I. Hi, fellow Patreon, fellow creator. Sorry, you've really kind of like expanded your universe. And was that a case of just like okay, I'll try this step. Oh, that seems to work. Right, I'll try this step, and you even make the mixes available for download, which blew me away. I really wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
And it was for a long time, I put off doing a Patreon because mashups have always been a hobby and I never wanted it to feel like a job. I never wanted it to feel like, okay, I have to do this and this. I have to continue to put content on my Patreon because people are paying for it. I never wanted it to feel that way.
Yeah, pressure.
Because I think that's just going to kill the whole thing and make me not want to do it at all. And I mean, to be honest, I feel a little bit of that you know, I had on top of doing my day job or any kind of stuff I have to do at home already for teaching, to pile extra stuff on it. Sometimes I don't want to. But then I look at it, I'm like, well, I don't want to stop getting paid for it because again, YouTube's never going to give me anything. So yeah, I want to keep going with it and everything. And so, I mean, it's cool. It's, you know, something extra per month. As long as I could just put a little bit of time into it. And normally it's just stuff behind the scenes videos that I'll make of how I put the mixes together. And I've done maybe 10 of those. And some of that includes behind the scenes of mashups that I started, but never finished for various reasons, you know, because they weren't vibing together or whatever it was. And I think people appreciate that. And that's stuff that they can't just see on YouTube. You would have to be a patron on there to see that behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, and there's some pressure to continue that and to keep making those extra videos to put on there. But yeah, so it's cool. And the merch, I kind of made a few designs and put them on just to see if people would be into them. I mean, I'm not a graphic designer by any means. You know, I do my thumbnails and some of them look okay. Some of them just look kind of goofy. It's like, whatever. I don't know anybody who could do this. So I'm just going to kind of do it myself. But I would like to do more with merch. I don't know what exactly, but I would think just t-shirts based on some of the creations that I've done. But I'd have to get somebody who really knows what they're doing to make them look really good, because otherwise people aren't going to want to buy it, you know. But if I can find somebody to put something together, you know, whether it's just like a picture of Tom Araya and Prince next to each other or something, you know, it would be funny that people would appreciate and would actually want to wear. So yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah, it's what you need is you need to find the you of artwork, you know, of merch design. Somebody who can, like, you know, who can mash it together for you and say, right, like that, you know, that works. And then, you know, believe you me, as somebody in a band, to actually get people to commit online to buying merch. And, you know, going through the selecting it, and have you got it in the right size, and is it the right price, and is it which t-shirt company, what t-shirt brand is it made on, because I don't want it if it's on Fruit of the Loom or if it's Gildan or and it's like it's a whole other world of pain if you can get it right. And then of course there's the volumes of shirts to buy and what sizes and how to split the sizes up, and that's a whole evolving world that I, in case you haven't gathered, I'm steering you away from.
Okay. That's probably for the best.
It's just a massive pain in the ass, because stuff that you think is awesome for some reason doesn't click, doesn't sell. Mm-hmm. You know, stuff that you think is like, it's okay, flies out the door. You know, and sizes as well. It's trying to get sizes, and ultimately, to make it work, you need to be ordering significant numbers, or they're going to be too expensive and people just won't buy them, no matter how cool they are.
Right. That's true. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yes. Yeah. And then, and I'm sorry, I'd forgotten all about storage. Yeah. So you better have plenty of room at home.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a company, I think they're called Teespring, where they do all that. All you have to do is like submit your design basically and say, I want it available for this, this, and this. But I mean, because they're the ones doing it, the stuff, like the price point is expensive. You know, it's like around $30 for a t-shirt, because they're going to take their cut and I'll take a little bit, whatever. And so, and like you say, people aren't going to want to spend that much just for a t-shirt.
It's frustrating
yourself, then you're really not going to make much on doing the merch thing.
Yeah. And the thing is like, you know, I'm like you know, with Patreon as well. It's like, yes, there is pressure there to keep delivering content, but by the same token, that you know that the budget you're going to, you know, the money you're getting from that content is, you know, is helping you survive, if you need extra gear, and also it's paying for your time, because time is money.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and it takes a lot of time. It's and people ask sometimes how much time does it take beginning to end. My estimate is around 20 hours, somewhere around there. Does it take? I mean, including just from the beginning, putting them together, coming up with a video, and just the editing of them, or once you kind of have a draft, and then going over it and trying to find every little imperfection and just improving it to the point where you can't find a way to improve it anymore. And that's the perfectionist in me, and that's why it takes a long time to do that. But you're right. So it's a lot of time, and time is money. So it's good to be compensated a little bit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're a guitar player, and are you still doing guitar lessons and stuff like that?
No, I haven't done those for a few years. That was full time for me for a few years, for like 5 years or so. And I had about 60 kids a week. They're half-hour lessons, but I would have between 60 and 70. Some kids, some adults would come in. So, I mean, that kept me busy, and I liked the teaching so much. And that's when I decided, well, I should get my certification so I could teach in a school, something that can sustain me for a whole career. And then once I got a full-time job, then teaching in a school, then my student load I just didn't want to do it. And eventually, I mean, the store I was working eventually went out of business after I left. But, it's just the kind of thing where I knew I couldn't do that forever. And honestly, I like teaching in a school a lot more. I like the group of kids. I like the kind of the activities we can do with a whole group. And, I mean, you have your kids who are just going to have behavior problems, and that's just how it goes. But it's still a whole class. You're still going to have kids there that you like. With the teaching, sometimes with the individual guitar lessons, sometimes you have a kid and you can't stand them, and you're stuck with that kid for 30 minutes, and it's like, oh my God, I cannot.
Yeah.
With a class, you have your ups and downs. There's always some kids there who you love, and so you focus on them. Yeah, but I like the classroom teaching more, and as far as guitar playing, I just don't have a reason to, I mean, when I was in high school, I played all the time. It was new to me at that time, and I loved it. And I would just learn all these songs. And as the years went on, it didn't really do anything for me anymore to try to learn these songs and to do this and that with them. And I tried writing some things, just again, using GarageBand, just recording guitar stuff, putting in a drum track, bass track, and that kind of, and it was more like 80s rock kind of a vibe. And that was fun. It was cool, but I did a couple, and then I didn't really want to do any more. It didn't do much for me,
Yeah.
And then
there kind of becomes a point where you think, well, okay, if I'm going to do this, then it needs some bass on it. And really, what's the point of this if there's no vocals on it? And then it's like, this is no. This is going down a road I don't want to go down.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, like I said, I came up with a couple tunes that were kind of cool. But it wasn't enough to sustain me. Like, I want to keep doing this and doing this and doing this, and I would share them, and they would, some people would like them and everything like that. But, just the mashup thing just really appealed to me. And even before I had a lot of followers, I was still making them all the time. Like I probably had about 20 that I had made and put on my YouTube channel before I had one on there that really took off. And then I started to get more fans after that.
So which one was that? Which one was that kickstarted
it? It was Rat and Marvin Gaye. And
wow.
It was a cool thing. I was at, I like I said, I had done about 20 of them, and I put that one on, and I didn't think much of it. I thought it was cool, but all the other ones I did were cool too. So I didn't think there was anything that special about it. But then I'm like I was at a Y&T concert at just like a venue in Pittsburgh where I live, and was just there with my friend and kind of just checked on my phone and looked at it. And all of a sudden I saw that video was getting all these hits. So I'm like, that's never happened. Like, what's going on? And I did just a Google search for the title that I made of it. And I just saw like there were these articles that had been written about it from like different publications. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And then the next day, like I was teaching in school, and like I'm teaching my kids, and I keep like checking my phone, like seeing I'm getting more hits and more hits, because that had never happened at all. Like nothing ever even close to that. And that was so cool. And just to see that, and that, I mean, that really fueled me to just keep going at that point. Cause I didn't know how much longer I was going to do it if I wasn't getting any hits and, wasn't really developing an audience. But that, I mean, that happened at that point. And then that, like I said, really fueled me to just keep going with it.
Yeah. And because like, it's no fun doing stuff in a vacuum. You want to get some feedback,
Right.
If we've done something that's cool, you want people to see it and tell you it's cool.
And that's like you're saying,
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Like you're saying too, with what you do, you're learning in public, and that's exactly what it was, because I didn't know what people would like. I know what I like and that kind of thing. And I was just kind of finding a balance between what I like and what other people like, because I don't want to do something that I think is stupid just because other people are going to like it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think I've really found it just with the metal and pop combinations, because I love doing those, and people think they're great. People think they're funny. And so I do a lot of that kind of thing. And then also with the soul metal, which is kind of the flip flop, where it's a metal instrumental with soul, like, R&B, whatever, vocals, which is also a really cool combo. So those, I feel, are like the two main things that I do that I like and that other people really enjoy too.
And I think I might know the answer to this, but are you ever working on something and you're thinking, right, now this is going to go big. This is great. This is wonderful. And then it doesn't. And then, and then I thought I knew the answer to this. And then something you think, yeah, it's okay, goes huge. And you're like, well, I don't know anything.
100%. And that's one thing that I have learned that I will never learn, is how to gauge what my audience's reaction is going to be. I have no idea. And I thought, I mean, like the Prince and Slayer one that I just did, like, I mean, it has, I don't know, maybe 80,000 hits after 3 days, which is good. But to be honest, that's pretty average for me. I mean, that I usually get around that within a few days to a week. It's usually around there. I thought it was going to be more like when I did Metallica and Huey Lewis, which was the last one that was about a year ago, January. That one really took off. That got to 1 million hits within 2 weeks, I think.
Wow.
And I mean, I think part of that is the Metallica song is so well known, and that vocal and everything, everybody knows that, whether metal fans like it or not. And it's not just a metal fan base. That's just, I feel like everyone really knows that song. And I know just Metallica, the Black Album, got a lot of criticism from metal fans who were really into the first 4 albums that Metallica did, because they were like more hardcore metal, and the Black Album not so much. It started to go in a different direction. It was more radio friendly, So and people calling it more of a pop kind of a thing. And so to actually put that vocal with a pop song, I think was something that kind of triggered something in people too, to be like, see, there it is. This is a pop song. It always was from the very beginning.
For once, you've got metal elitists on your channel going, good work. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same for me. It's welcome to the world of social media. I am convinced that anybody who works in social media marketing is snake oil salesman, because what and what I know is we don't know anything.
That's exactly it.
You cannot create content that is guaranteed to hit so many hits, to go viral, to be popular. You just don't know, because it's for me, it's inevitable that something you think is going to be big isn't, and something that you pay little attention to goes huge, and you're just left scratching your head.
Yeah, and the opposite was a few Christmases ago when I did the Marilyn Manson and Mariah Carey, and that has more views than anything on my channel. And I thought, I put it together, and I thought, like, okay, this is cool. And I was kind of like iffy about it before I uploaded it. Like, this is kind of weird. I mean, I've always had kind of weird combinations, but that one more than any, I felt was just so out there. And I'm like, should I even post this? I don't know, and I did. And then, 3 days later, it was 1 million hits on YouTube. I'm like, really? Okay. That's fine. Like, I mean, not that I don't like it. I think it's cool and everything, but I think a lot of the other ones I did were cool. And like you said, you just don't know. You don't know which ones are going to take off. It's a total surprise every time.
Yeah, yeah, and it is. It's unfathomable. It really is. And as I said, anyone who works in social media marketing is like, come on, we know you don't know as well. Yeah, you've got access to tons of matrix and data and all the rest of it, but that's not that. That just tells you that tells you how people reacted to what. But it doesn't tell you what's going to create a winning combination. Because if you take all those numbers and you go, well, actually, if we create this should go viral, I'll guarantee it won't.
Right. That's exactly it. And every time I think something is going to, it never does.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Exactly. Because all you can ever be offered, all you can ever be offered is data as to how this performed and how that performed. And that's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't create content. And ultimately, as human beings, we're back to emotions again. It's how people, emotionally connect to what they see, to what they hear, and that can't be predicted.
No, definitely not. And that's it can be frustrating sometimes, just because you don't know, and it's a surprise every time when you put something out. And more often than not, it's a disappointment because you expect it. Once you have a few that have really gone viral over the years, and no matter how unrealistic it might be, you expect that every time, and you want that because you put in the work, you put in the time, just like you did for the ones that went viral.
Yeah.
So why isn't this? And it feels like a letdown.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, you were saying, like, over the years. So how long have you been doing this now?
Almost 5 years. It was the first one I did, I remember, was in May of 2017. Yeah. So it'll be 5 years since I did the first one in May. So yeah, I mean, a while. And the thing with me is, usually when I find something that I'm kind of into and that I want to pursue and try to get good at something, 3 years is generally as far as I go with it. And that's it. But this is different because I've never, anything else that I've tried to get good at in the past, whether it's musical or not. I mean, I'm talking anything from pool to bowling to, and any of those, like, it doesn't have to be music related, but those things last about 3 years. But this is different, I think, just because of the fan base and because I have those people, and it's just nice to have that audience who I can get a reaction for something that I make, and people who are almost like depending on it, like, when are you going to do another one? We're waiting, and sometimes I'll get comments like, dude, it's been a few weeks, like, when are you going to come out with something else? So I know that people are kind of are almost waiting, like, okay, let's see what he's going to come up with next. And that's so cool, to have that and know that no matter what I do, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to watch it.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because it's almost like in those other areas. When I was listening to you talk about that, it reminded me a lot of me. Basically, I'm very much kind of like, if I try something and I've got an aptitude for it immediately, then I will work on it. If I try something and I don't have an aptitude for it, I will walk away and never speak of it again.
Yep. Yeah. I'm exactly that way. Yeah. Since I was a little kid, if I wasn't good at something right away, that was it. I don't want to do it. I'd go on and try something else that I was good at. And I mean, it makes sense because you want it to succeed at it. And if you feel like you have a leg up, you have an aptitude for it, then that's what you want to spend your time doing. And I've had a lot of, I mean, I think sometimes of myself being that way. And I can remember when I had students who would come to me when I was doing the private guitar lessons, and these are adults who so obviously did not have an aptitude for it, and who would just keep on trying and trying and trying. And I can't say anything. All I can do is encourage them to keep trying and keep trying, kind of a thing. But
practice makes perfect.
There and be like, I don't know what's keeping this person coming in here and trying, because you could see them getting frustrated, and they don't, I mean, because if I had tried something and realized immediately that I didn't have an aptitude for it, that would have been it. But
Yeah.
not everyone's like that.
Yeah. I get asked, not all the time, but occasionally I get asked, like, do you ever get nervous about going on stage? And I'm like, dude, if I got nervous about going on stage, I wouldn't go on stage. Fuck that. No way. I see like other people in bands, other comedians, like pacing and having to go to the toilet before they go on. And I'm like, dude, do something else. Find something else. It's not worth it. I'm the other way around. I'm like, I can't wait to get out there. And that's why I do it. If I did, if I was that nervous, I would never do it.
Right. That's exactly right. And I couldn't imagine, because I would be more that way. I always got really nervous, and that's why I don't do it.
Because it's not fun being nervous.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, I can remember like doing a gig and feeling good afterwards, because I memorized all this music. I got it together. I did a decent job and everything, but I wasn't having fun in the moment. When I was there, I didn't like it. I was like, okay, just a few more songs and I'm done, and I can go home. That's not, I'm not that person. I never wanted to do that. So, but yeah, it doesn't make sense that somebody would continue to do that, going on stage either by themselves or with a group, and if they're that miserable beforehand, just why are you doing it?
Yeah, and it also sounds to me like you've achieved a level of success with mashups that I don't want to get all like COD psychology on you, but maybe a level of success that you were always looking for in other avenues that you weren't ever getting to. And then, I mean, for instance, those feelings of nerves and plowing through a gig and it being okay afterwards. Well, if it's 50 people in a bar, you just think, yeah, fuck this. Mm-hmm. But if it's 50,000 people, you think, yeah, I could learn to enjoy this. Yeah. But now with mashups, you've got that level of exposure, 250,000, followers, etc., where it's like, okay, no, this is a level that I've been looking for. Is that true?
That's exactly it. Yeah, and I've just throughout my life have tried different things. Have tried different things. I mean, moderate success at getting good at it, but I mean, music has always been my thing. That's what I've had an aptitude for, and not even necessarily playing, but I think just it's always just kind of been more just being able to think through things and being able to arrange charts and hear things, learn by ear, and be able to transcribe, and that all kind of flows together into doing the mashups. And yeah, it's almost like I've been training for it my whole life, but just didn't know it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. Yeah, absolutely.
Learning these different things, like learning the technology, learning how to arrange, being exposed and knowing all these different kinds of music and the video editing. And I did all of that at some point, and it just came together one day. Like, this is it. This is what I can do. This is what's going to separate me from everybody else. And so, yeah, so it's definitely been a good experience in reaching that level of success that I've definitely been trying for a long time, and just all different kinds of ways, even going on Instagram and like learning guitar solos, like, oh, look at me, I can play Bark at the Moon guitar solo, and yeah, who cares? Jake E. Lee already did it. Who cares if you can do it too,
Well, funnily enough, I think I'm an ADHD adult. Well, you have ADHD from birth. And I found out a few years ago that's like, that's me. That's what I have. Without drawing comparisons, I absolutely get that when you were talking there about all of the constituent parts of putting mashups together and all the different things, that is exactly what would put a lot of people off doing that. But somebody like myself, and I'm not projecting onto you, but someone like myself, for me, that would be, oh no, that's why I love doing this, because it's all of that stuff. Somebody watching you does it and goes, how the hell do you do this? This looks like a lot of work. How could you possibly enjoy this?
And I'm that way for sure. I'm a very detail-oriented person, really small details. And when people tell me that my attention to detail is just unmatched, that's like the biggest compliment you can give me, because I am. I really pay close attention to tiny, insignificant things. And I mean, I love that. I love doing that. Just going over anything I do with a fine tooth comb and just this and this and just fixing things and figuring out little guitar fills that I could put in here because it fits and it works and it's like a puzzle, and I love that. I love it.
And that's where our similarities end. Yeah, that does sound like a lot of work, and the perfectionist and the detail is definitely that's I'm with the people looking at you going, yeah, that's like incredible. But the attention to detail, especially with stuff like this, is what makes it work. It's what separates you from the pack, if you like, because I'm sure you can hear other people doing mashups where you listen to it and you go, dude, you need to spend a few more hours on that, you lazy motherfucker.
Yeah.
Give it to me, I'll fix it for you.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot of people who do mashups, but so many of them use music that I just don't know. It's newer music. And I don't know. I mean, and mashups are pointless if you don't know the original material.
Yes.
That's the only thing, the thing that makes them work and that makes them like magical is that you know this song and you know this song, and to hear them together, like, oh, okay, that's really cool. But if it could be a really good mashup. But if I don't know this song, it just sounds like a song, and I don't know the source material, and I feel just from what I've seen, I feel like at least 90% of mashup artists use that. So I can't appreciate it just because I don't know the stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm kind of on my own little island because I use this music. This is what I like. There's not many people who use older music to do it. And I think that's part of what has helped me build a bigger fan base too. It's people who already like that music. They listen to older music and they know it. And they're going to go and listen to my stuff because they like that music that I use, as opposed to somebody who's using something else that they don't like or that they don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of helped separate me.
And also your fan day, your base fan base, the root of it is metal, and metal fans are some of the most passionate music fans that there are. I've always said, even as a kid, I always said, it's not a music taste, it's a way of life.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah. I've never considered myself like a metalhead. I like metal music. The stuff that I'll use, I definitely like all of it. But, and you're right, that just people who are that into metal, they're really passionate about it. You can see them in just the live footage that I use of concerts, just the way that they are, and the audience are going crazy for these metal acts, Yeah. And as long as they're not elitist, then they'll look at the stuff that I do, and they'll be like, okay, that's really cool. And most people do have a good sense of humor about it. But yeah, so it definitely metal. And I see a lot of times, metal publications online will just share my stuff and just write a little blurb about it and, check out this new thing, which I remember the first time that happened, that was so cool. And, just to see like them talking about me and this thing that I'm doing. And now it's to the point where I've had so many that if I put one out, and I don't see any publications about it, I'm like, what happened? Like, why are they not talking about me on this one?
Yeah.
Expect it.
But the thing is, as well, is that metal fans are so passionate, but also they're great advocates. They're great because that if the metal, your fan base will be out there, as well as all of those articles. There's all of the sharing going on that you don't see. Where people are sharing it on their own personal social media, because us metal fans are all the same. When we find something that is really cool about metal that we think not a lot of other people know about, we want to be the ones to introduce it to all of our friends and everyone we can.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I do see a lot of that, people, because I'll do just a search on Facebook of the two bands that I just did, and just to see like people who share it and all that. And it'll tell you like how many times people share it, like 1,000 times or whatever it is. So, and there's a lot that I don't see. You're right. Like people who I guess, metal fans who will put it on their own social media, sharing it because they want other people to see it, and they'll tag people in it. And I'll see like somebody will just comment on my video that I posted on Facebook. They'll just tag somebody and just to get their reaction on it. But yeah, definitely they know people who will appreciate it, and they'll share it with them, and it just kind of expands.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's like I say, you know, as we say about the subscribers to this podcast, it's like you are like, you know, my army. You are the greatest asset. You know, I can put ads on platforms and put money behind it and all the rest of it. But that's all kind of meaningless. That just ends up in someone's feed, down an ad strip and whatever, you know. But when something appears in someone's feed because somebody else that they know has shared it, it has meaning, it has context.
Yeah.
So people are more likely to gravitate towards it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a teacher in the primary center next door, a third grade teacher, and she'll tell me how she sees like her friends on her own feed who are sharing my stuff. They don't know me, you know, and they're talking about like, oh, this is so cool and everything. And then the teacher, she'll go on and she'll be like, yeah, he is really cool. Like, you know, he teaches in high school and all this stuff. And he is really cool. So keep sharing his stuff.
Oh,
that's a nice thing to hear.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, look, I know you've got a lesson coming up, and any minute we're going to have kids steaming into the room. That's maybe not the best end to an interview. But look, speaking of which, please, I'll get this up over the coming weeks. I'll let you know. I'll stay in touch, and yeah, do the sharing. I'll do the sharing. And this has been great, Bill. Keep doing what you're doing. It's awesome. It really is.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. It's nice to talk about it, you know, and
yeah,
people want to listen and who are into it. So yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, not at all. I mean, I'm into it. I mean, I realize that, you know, my band's nowhere near well known enough for you to ever do anything of ours. But keep doing what you're doing, because like, I honestly, Black Magic, that made my day. That absolutely made my day. And what did I do? I shared it with everyone.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
No worries, man. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. Absolutely. Really enjoyed talking to you.
All right, for sure. You take care.
Yeah, you too, man. Take care. Right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.